Now it's time to conclude by seeing if we can teach Busang to play a simple game. So we're going to create a module called games, and then we're going to go ahead and I'm going to call this kitten collect. So it's a game to collect kittens, and if I remember it correctly, the URL is kitten collect. So let's see, not kitten collect. So again, hit the green button, and the game is very simple, right? The kittens have run away. You gotta basically, you hit start game, you gotta collect as many kittens as you can in 30 seconds. And if you press a hedgehog, it's game over. So try and get as many points as possible. So how do we do this in Busang? Well, we're gonna use the conditional logic that we learned from the previous exercise, right? With yellow or red, the cat and dog. And then we're going to try and see if we can kind of use this in combination with a loop to play the game to the end and get as many points as possible. And of course, this is useful to understand how can you react on things that are happening in your application to drive the logic of the tests, right? So let's see what we've learned. So let's start by hitting the record. But also, what is the first thing we want to do? Well, we want to make sure, because we're going to do a loop, that we don't keep hitting the start game button. So we're going to look for this message here. So the first thing we're going to do is create the validation for that message. And then we're going to start recording, hitting the start game button, right? And that's great. And we're going to try and hit the cat. So I managed to miss it. So now you see click cat, and that's good. And this one is basically useless. I missed the cat. So I want to delete that, right? So this is all good. And then we basically want to wait until the end of the test case to look for this game over, which is when the time has passed, okay? So now we'll create a validation on game over. And that's basically the base that we need. So the first thing we want to do is to say, we only want to click start game if we have this text. So I'm going to change to the graphic interface, and I'm going to add a group. And we're going to do what we learned before. I'm going to put the validation condition in and the start game condition in, and make sure that they are the right order. First you want to validate, then you want to start game. And here you want to use on failed. If you don't have the text, break the group, right? So that's all good. So now we've handled the first condition. Then on click cat, we want to make sure that if the cats aren't shown, it's very random how they show up. So we want to make sure to wait for a maximum 10 seconds for a cat to show up, for instance, right? And then here, at the end condition, we want to say, oh yeah, if you see game over, we exit the test case, right? But by looking at if it's failed, we can actually go back to the beginning of the test case, which is kitten collect. So that will basically create a loop and loop back. So of course what we want to do is say that this is normal, this is success, and then this limit loop, this is like a security loop, but we want to make sure that we at least go back perhaps 1,000 times, because of course eventually game over will show up. So now let's try this and see what happens if we play this. So I'm going back to the graphical user interface, and we'll see if we can play this game. But it looks like it's clicking cats, right? And then it looks like it's going back to the beginning. So this is a good start. We are collecting kittens, but we're not getting a lot of points. I would say a human could probably outdo this test tool right now. It's basically, it seems to be waiting very long here to look at the start playing. Then it clicks a cat, but then it waits a long time to find this game over. But technically, as you can see, the tool is playing the game, and that's great, waiting for a lot of seconds now for cats to show up, and then it's gonna find and go on. Here it also a little bit broken. So here we would like to do stop and make sure that if it doesn't find this cat, it's got to make sure to be not an error condition. So we're going to fix this now. So here, of course, we're going to say break test case. We can just do continue to next action actually, and just display a warning. So that's fine. The problem here, I would say, is a little bit slow. So even if I run this from the beginning, we're not really collecting these kittens as fast as we can. So that, I would say, is the next tuning that we're going to do.